All right, beloved, welcome again to another episode of what we call Seeds of Liberation. And here I am with my co-pastor, Pastor Lindsay Anderson, and we are planting seeds of justice tonight. We just want to kick it with you for a few minutes on the issue of leadership. Where is leadership going in this country? Oh Lord. Let's turn to Exhibit A, and that is Wednesday when President Joe Biden, our newly elected president, gave a speech to Congress marking his first 100 days in office, where he celebrated the whole notion of over 100 million Americans being vaccinated, which was certainly incredible, which was awesome. But the real fireworks started after the speech. And that was when our good friends, our siblings on the conservative side of the aisle, that is the Republican Party, deployed an incredible weapon. And that is the only Black senator on the Republican side, Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, who serves with Lindsey Graham, oh Lord. And so the incredible piece is that, of course, Tim Scott talked about all these Republican talking points, that the legislation that Joe Biden is proposing for infrastructure and trying to help rebuild the infrastructure of the country is too expensive, which, is always interesting because Republicans never say that the trillions of dollars that we spend and don't account for the military to maintain our empire is too expensive. They never talk about the deficits that it causes to education, which gets no money. Or all the other things that we neglect fighting because we put so much money in the military and have turned it into another form of welfare. Amen. But we're worried about how to spend. So here's Tim coming out to make everything right. And I'm Black, y'all. See, I'm Black face. And so one of the incredible things is that Tim represented what one journalist called a professional friend. Amen. that, of course, Republicans or any other white people can never be racist if they have a Black friend. And sometimes in that role of being a Black Republican, Black Republicans are often called a lot of things, but what we forget is they do serve that purpose of being that friend to white men that lets them say that they're not racist. In comes Tim again for a helping hand, because Tim, when asked the question, is this country racist, says, oh no, this country is not racist. What? A Black man in America? You must have not been pulled over by the cops lately, Tim. You must have not come down into your average urban center and seen the blight and what is happening to poor people in urban centers. But the bottom line is America racist? Oh my God. Well, instead of me answering that question, well, in comes the president, Joe Biden, and the vice president, Kamala Harris, to answer and say, and first the president says that, of course, America is not racist, but we have all these things we need to work on that are racist. Oh, okay. And so does the vice president our first Black female president, vice president, also says that this country is, quote unquote, not racist, but we do have some historical pieces that we need to work on around racism. Oh, okay. Well, are we racist or not? I mean, what? And so the Republicans deployed with efficiency this Black friend that caused all kinds of problems to liberals, almost as much as Clarence Thomas did to Black leaders years ago when he was wheeled out and we didn't know how to call, well, I won't use that phrase, but we didn't know how to say the truth about even when they are the purveyors of racist policies that hurt poor people and are sexist and classist and homophobic. Instead of calling them out, Black, white, red, or yellow, we fall for that old notion of the pitfalls, as Cornel West called it, of racial reasoning. The pitfalls of racial reasoning don't allow us to say a person is racist or classist or sexist because they're Black. Aren't they on our side? Well, what did Zora Neale Hurston say? Pastor, skin folk ain't always our kinfolk, y'all. And we need to be able to call them out as such, no matter what color they are. And so these pieces are just little tidbits of how leadership, our elected leadership, is failing all over the country, and not just on the right side of the aisle, but also on the left side of the aisle as well, Pastor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what was disappointing for me about that moment from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is that it would have been very easy to deflect that question by sharing truth, right? Because it's a trap. We know it's a trap. When, folks say, well, Tim Scott, old Tim Scott, our Black friend, said that America's not racist. What do you think about that? You calling him a liar? But, to have something ready to say, oh, well, if he thinks that, he must not have been accounting for the wealth gap between African Americans and Latinx Americans and white folks. Oh, he must not have heard about the 340 murders of young Black and brown people in the last 4 months at the hands of police. He must not know about the school to prison pipeline, right? So I think one of the things that is very disappointing to me is this continual self-protecting or protecting of one's own power and position at the cost of telling the truth. And when we see that on both sides of the aisle, we see that in different ways in a lot of the entrenchments of members of our legislature who just exist to pander to a certain demographic of people, or who respond fearfully because they don't want to lose support. But I think in addition to that, so that, first of all, is a thing that we can hold our leaders accountable for. That we can say, you are not showing up on my behalf in the way that I elected you to show up. And I need you to fix that. I'm going to call and talk to you about what I think and how you should fix it. And my community is going to get together and leverage some power. So that's one thing. But I think also this moment is not just about our leaders, but it reflects back to us a truth
Yes.
about ourselves, a truth about our own culture, society, worldviews in this country. And part of what I saw in that moment is the entrenched, the insidious mythology that we have. And I'm talking about conservatives and liberals and Black folks and white folks, people of color. There's this mythology that has its hooks in us that tells us that keeps us from believing that America is racist. America is racist. They,
Oh Lord.
Joe
Say
Biden
it
was
loud,
wrong.
sister.
He was wrong in that moment. But we have this thing, and it shows up for us. You all know we've shared before that I've been doing a lot of study of abolitionists, right? And one of the tenets that abolitionists like Mariam Kaba and Angela Davis are constantly pushing forth is to say the system isn't broken. Stop saying that we live in a broken policing system. Stop saying that we live in a broken government system. Stop saying that's broken. It's not broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to work.
Oh Lord.
America is running exactly as it was designed to run. We have racial injustice because it was baked into our founding. This country was set up so that white people could live and thrive and people of color could serve as resources, bodily resources, to have money made off of them, right? And could be held down so that they didn't take from the resource pool of whiteness. So, but we have this idea, right, that we keep holding on to that, oh, America's not really racist. There's some racist people, right? There are some bad people out here. But as soon as we get rid of them, everything's going to be fine. Mm-mm. No, friends. And that's a hard pill to swallow because we've been indoctrinated our whole lives, our whole life. The American propaganda machine is intense and strong. And so I have been trying to check myself around the broken system language, right? Because I say that often. You will look back at the record and see that I say that, but it's not broken. It's doing what it's meant to do. And if we can't name the truth about the system, then how are we ever going to have the collective will to build a new system, right? To get rid of racism if we can't identify that it's racist at the core.
Absolutely.
And so we need to hold ourselves accountable to that view of the world, to that to lifting up the call for justice above this mythology, above our need to feel okay about America, above our need to feel like most people are really wish us well, or most people are good people, right? All people have the capacity for good and for evil. That's what our faith teaches, right? That's what we see in the world if we're really honest. So we got to do some unpacking of our own so that we can hold our leaders accountable to say,
Yes.
tell the truth. And the truth is this, and my community and this growing number of allies keep saying the truth, and we'll be louder and louder and louder until it's easier for you to say the truth. Or until you refuse and we elect someone else who's going to tell the truth.
That's right. I mean, this moment really shows us the importance for us to stay vigilant, to not go to sleep, y'all. That old phrase, stay woke, y'all. In this moment, as we watch the Republican Party implode, because they don't know who they are. There's a struggle within the party right now for identity. But in the meantime, they're doing the same things. Mitch McConnell is saying our purpose is to stop Joe Biden, but has no plan for what they do if they stop him. I mean, how do you serve God's people if you're successful in stopping them, if that's your goal? But it also says that while the Republican Party is weak, even in this conservative country of America, that in a two-party system, the importance of having two parties is so that they can check each other when it comes to leading by their consciousness, not by party lines, but by what they believe is the right way to govern the people, to help the people so that the least of these may be served and helped. And so this was an instance when even the left side of the aisle failed. And right now we see that the Republicans are scared. That's why they've passed over 300 voter suppression laws in this country since the November election. 47 out of 50 states have passed legislation to keep people from voting. Because they're scared, they're scourged, y'all. But it also shows the need to keep the left side scared as well, because when it comes time for anybody to tell the truth, we don't get a free pass. I mean, at the worst, Kamala Harris could have looked in the mirror and did the unthinkable, right? Or could have looked in the camera and said, you know what? This damn country is racist as hell. It was built on white supremacy and slavery and an economy of slavery. And people were murdered and raped and killed, and they're still being killed. So we just showed that we can win an election in this country if all their folks show up. We can still beat them. So go ahead. I mean, that's what this is all about, and they know it. So we can tell the truth. But I get it. I mean, I'm also sensitive to the fact that in the absence of men stepping up, women have also been pushed forward to do things that we wouldn't do as men. In terms of telling the truth. And that's not fair. I understand that. But still, when the moment of truth happens, I mean, we got to step up in the name of God and speak truth to power. And so, which reminds us, church, about, the whole notion of where's the church in all this? I mean, we have some incredible examples of powerful pieces when it comes to leadership biblically. Oh Lord, from Genesis to Revelation. A couple of pieces we want to share with you right quick is Psalm 72 is one of what we call the royal psalms, and Psalm 72 was read every time that a king of Israel was anointed king. Now, these are the words that was said every time that one of those Jewish monarchs stepped forward in the name of God and led God's people. It says, verse 1, give the king justice, O God. That's the first line, the first verse. Give the king not money, not power, give your king as if the king belongs to God. Give your king justice, O God. and your righteousness to a king's son. May he judge your people with righteousness and your poor with justice. May the mountains yield prosperity for the people, not for the king, for the people. Mm-hmm. And the hills in righteousness. May he defend the cause of the poor of the people. Give deliverance to the needy and crush the oppressor. Not become an oppressor, but crush the oppressor. Now, this is a psalm, y'all, that was read before every king of Israel was anointed. And it's amazing that only 3 or 4 of those monarchs out of some 40 something or 50 ended up really following God. Mm. But then again, as I was saying before we went on the air, to Pastor Anderson, all the presidents also put their hands on a Bible, right? Before. Right. And it didn't make any difference. But this is an example of what leadership is called to do. Leadership is supposed to act on behalf of God, called by God to lead the people. And the king is supposed to understand that his faith or her faith is equal to that of the lowest person in the kingdom, oh Lord. Mm-hmm. So where is that leadership in the land, on the land of the free and the home of the brave? Where is that leadership today? The church should be an example of that leadership, of that moral compass that keeps the least of these in the forefront. And an example of a monarch of that grade from the biblical stance was King Solomon. King Solomon, in both Chronicles and Kings, the histories part of the Bible, goes on record when God asked King Solomon, "What do you want me to give you?" Oh Lord, what would you do if God asked you, "What do I want to get? What do you want?" And I grant it to you. And Solomon, incredibly, unlike 99.9% of the other kings of Israel before him or after him, said, "God, give me the wisdom to know what is right and what is wrong, that I might be able to govern your people, that I might be able to lead your people." What a lofty thing to ask. Wow. Give me the power, Lord. Give me the power to be able to lead your people righteously. That's caring about the people more than if you get reelected. More than what the party line has told me to do. More than what the corporation who donated money to my campaign is directing me to do. Wow. Oh Lord, that's Solomon ranks powerfully as an example of not a perfect king. I mean, we know that Solomon had his ups and downs, the king, but at least his ambition was to be able to be a servant of God's people. And so he remains even larger than his father. David is someone who asked for the right thing and amazed God by doing so. Mm-hmm. Amen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we see the witness of our faith, and we know, and if you are a regular viewer, you have heard us say that all of us, the orientation of all people of faith, of all people who follow the way of Jesus, is to care about the vulnerable, is to prioritize the needs of the vulnerable, right? And we see that the Bible is lifting up the leaders who do that as the best model of leadership. Now, we know that not all of our leaders are Christians. Some of them are people of other faiths. Some of them are people of no faith, and that's fine. Diversity makes our is a benefit and an enrichment in our conversation as a nation, in our life together. But we can still we can't tell them what their values should be, but we can elect people who have the same values as us. And you don't have to be a Christian to care for the vulnerable. You don't have to be a Christian to know that your fate, the well-being of this nation, rests on its ability to take care of the poor, rests on its ability to be concerned with what happens to working class people, to people who are holding up, who are essential workers, who are unemployed, who are the majority marginalized people, right? You don't have to be a Christian to know that, or to have a priority of caring for them. But if you are a Christian, that should be the model of leadership that you're embodying and that you're seeking in your leaders.
Oh, Lord.
And so, it's time out. It's time out for leaders who are just interested in maintaining their own position and protecting their own power. And it won't be a reality until we make it a reality, right? If we want that to stop, and I don't know about you, but I really want that to stop, because we are going on a road to destruction. It's not telling the truth about racism that's going to destroy our country. It's not making sure that everyone has the right to vote that's going to destroy our country. It's going to be continuing to ignore the needs of the most vulnerable people. That's going to bring us down.
That's
and
good.
So if we want it to change, we have to make it change. And our faith gives us the foundation, gives us the encouragement, gives us the call to do that.
Absolutely. And just one last piece to drop on you is that, I think it's 1 Peter 3:15 says, always be ready to give an account, a hope that is in you. And so a biblical mandate for us to be able to defend our faith. I mean, that's to give an account for the hope. And so that hope is not built on leaders who steal from God's people, or who are racist or sexist or homophobic. I mean, that faith is built on leaders who lead in the way of taking care of the most vulnerable and needy. Those, as Derek Bell said, the faces at the bottom of the well. Amen. I mean, those are the leaders that we want, and those are the leaders that God is demanding that we step forward and speak up for. They are not perfect. We're not looking for perfect leaders, because our political system is always trying to elect perfect people. Well, where is that in the Bible? we all fall short of the glory of God. And so for a leader to understand that they have flaws is the type of leaders we want, who step in the gap and protect the needy and help those who are hurting. And so there it is, beloved of God. We are looking for leaders, and guess what? You're one of them. You are the person that you were looking for. You don't have to wait any longer. You are the one that God is calling to lead. And so, amen. Until Until next time, y'all, on Seeds of Liberation, keep the faith and take care of each other. Amen.
Amen.